Yo, what's up guys? Let's talk about the buff unit that is a Fire Nina, aka also the Fire Shasha. Why is she interesting? Well, don't look at the stats. You don't have anything ruined anywhere anymore, you just have them ruined in your decks. But what is interesting about her? Well, she only got buffed on the skill 3, which is now an ignore defense on a 4-time hit. Which is kind of unique because as far as I know, there's no ignore defense units with multi-hits. But how useful is that actually? Skill 1 is just a typical stun. Skill 2 is a strip into Death Break, I guess. Yep. So wait, is the second and third hit a Death Break? That's actually kind of consistent. That is not that bad at all for a skill that goes to 2-turn cooldown. And we're going to be maxing out the strip to like 100, and the Death Break is going to be 80, which... Strip, Death Break, and Ignore Defense in the 3 is a pretty loaded kit, actually. It's just a skill 1, stun, not that interesting, but also an attack lead on this. Let's check out who she's competing to for like similar roles, because there's actually a lot of units on fire with Ignore Defense. So these are all of the units with Ignore Defense. Of course, this one no longer works in PvP, but you do, for example, have a Federica, you do have your Kali, of course, also free to play right there. Claire is pretty common. Federica already mentioned. I guess that it's mainly Federica, Claire, Kali, that those are really the known ones out there for ignoring defense. This one kind of does, but it's more conditional, so it's not as interesting. This one used to, but also not. Also base 105. But let's actually look at the base stats of all of these units and then also compare multipliers for the skills, because I don't know the multiplier just yet. Okay, looking at the stats of her base attack is really low. That's just a 758. A lot of units are way higher than that. She actually has pretty decent high defense for a unit like this. But her multiplier is a 4 times, almost a 1%. So we're looking at 3.8% in total. That's a lot of damage actually for a multiplier on like near defense. Let's compare that over here to the Battle Angel. So we already see Unawakened. It's already more, 900 base attack, which is a lot more base attack. But rather than a 3.8, it is a 3.5 multiplier. Claire will do more damage, definitely, because of a higher base attack, though. What do we have on Federica? Also way higher base attack, also capping that off by 100-ish, or pretty much, or is it even more than 100? Yeah, that's even more than 100. It's like 120 extra base. And then we also have a lower multiplier once again, but we have extra damage for every buff. So in the end, we'll definitely do more damage. Then we have the Kali also checking out this one. Kali is a 3.3, so we have a 0.5 higher on multiplier, but it is a 911 for a base attack, which is like a straight up 160 extra base attack. So we're going to compare the damage from the Kali towards the Shasha, because I have both of those. I think that's the easiest damage difference that we can just check out. Cooldowns is a 3-turn cooldown over here. This is going to be a 4-turn cooldown. So that's a little bit longer. But for a bruiser fight, I kind of like this revolver kick, the heal kick not as much, where it's like the cross attack not as much. God of Fire is a pretty good skill though. But let's see where it's used. And maybe it's even a defense unit for some kind of stuff, because you gotta replace the Shumar with something that has damage, right? Okay, so where can Shasha be used? Well, a team that I was mentioning before, I was using a team like this on the alt before, but these units are a bit on the slow side. And since they are on the slow side, I just have an issue where I can't make it fully in tune. And this is actually a really big gap. I can make the Shasha a bit faster. If I still want to go for enough damage, I cannot really make it fully in tune. So something like this would actually mess me up. So let's find a team where I can hit a little bit easier. So a team like this is a lot easier to hit. Let's still throw in the Odin. This is the damage set that we're looking at. This is pretty much as good as I can make it on the alt right now. You want to be aiming for attack increasing effect and then crit damage 3 and attack increasing effect. Crit damage more is not going to be interesting. Crit damage own is still fine. Crit damage first is also not interesting because you're hitting that multi-hit right there. I don't have the skill up of 50 extra crit damage just yet, but let's see how much damage this one can do and then change that to a Kali and then see how much the Kali can do. So first of all, boosting that right there, and then we're going to go for a skill 3, which is going to be a multi-hit of 4, so it's 14.7, 14.5, and then probably 2 more 40.5-ishes right there. So that's also where you can see the damage fluctuation. Every hit should be doing the exact same damage, but there's like 5% damage up, 5% damage down, or something along those lines. But if we take, let's say, the 14.5, or let's just take an average, I think we're doing about 59k damage on this hit, which not a bad hit at all. Like a close to 60k hit right there, which is pretty much similar to what this Net 5 that is actually max skilled and on a way slower set is dealing over there. Plus, afterwards, we have to clean up where we do get Death Break in from that hit, and then we can clean that up from a Death Break, which the cleanup is pretty strong as well. Let's say that we do the same hit, but then with a Kali. There's one thing with decks that you may have seen, may not have seen just yet. But if you go to decks right now and you want to change a unit, so let's say we change this unit, what you can do right now is you can load decks from a preset, and then you can go to a different preset. So we're going to copy the whole set of that Sasha into this one, aka the Nina. And then we also do the same thing for the artifacts. Sometimes you have to click through this menu here a bit if it's on like a different content or a different whatever. But it's pretty chill to load your runes in like this if you're setting up decks for something that's exactly the same. It is a little bit slower of a unit. For skill ups, we're looking about the same. With the Sasha, I can get like 20 or 15% extra. In this case, I can get like 20% extra. Also, I forgot to put relics on both of them. So therefore, that's a fair one-to-one trade. If neither of them have relics, then it's still like an equal ground. So let's see how much damage we can do over here. Also, if you're hitting the right element, which we are not in the moment, you can lower crit rate by another 15. How much damage are we looking at? 57k. So that Sasha, aka the Nina, is doing about 1.5k more damage. But if we max skill them both, I think that the Kali would do slightly bit more damage. But then we're also looking at the cleanup. Cleanup over here is a little bit worse because sure, we can go for another round of buffs right now, and it is nice, but we kind of have to wait for the, well, in the case of the Odin, it's actually nice because we get back to the 5 buffs. But if there was a Kiara next to that, Kiara wouldn't have had like an ignored defense right away right there. So there's something to say about both units that could be interesting for that. But there's one particular moment where you do want to have that unique mechanic of multi-hitting ignore defense, and you probably already feel it coming. It is Mr. Bunchel. So we have a Bunchel defense over here. Let's just rock in. Let's first try out the Kali version. So Kali version plus the Odin. I think that the Odin is not fully in tune. Enemies are about like 150-ish speed or something. So let's see over here, and let's check the damage on this thing. 36k. So that is a pretty substantial hit, but not enough. And as you can see, these things are not fully in tune, and then we start dying. Yay. Let's try out the difference with this Sasha right now. So we're aiming for at least 36k. But we should be doing way higher than that. So let me also grab the calculator on that, because this is going to be where you see the passive of Bunchel. So before you ask like why Bunchel specific, Bunchel passive lowers the damage output by him having more HP. So the less HP he has, the more damage he will do, which we'll also see in the numbers over here. So we're dealing, I think that that is so hard to read. I think the second hit was like a 9k. This is like an 8.8 or something. That is incredibly hard to read because of the Nemesis. 10.8, and then we're dealing an 11.7. So in the end, we did do a substantial bit more damage, but we still did not fully kill it. So I think it was this plus, so 11.7. Let me just try to get a proper version of it where I can actually read the skills. And then I can do the calculation more proper of how much damage it actually was. Okay, so that's a 9k plus 10k. Those are easy numbers to work with. Plus, I thought it was Nemesis, but there's no Nemesis on it. Plus a 10.8er, and then the final hit is going to be a 11.6er. So we're looking at 41.4k damage. I was kind of expecting to do a little bit more damage, but the lower the HP of the Bunchel is, the more damage you're gonna do. So if you have a better set that would be more focused on, in this case, if you actually wanna like nuke it down pretty hard, I would say that do we have some damage on a wind? Probably not that much. 13 is the most we have. So in this case, you probably would see even a bigger damage difference, because the more damage she does early, the more damage there's going to be late as well. So that's just how it works. And still not good enough to kill. I was kind of hoping that she would be good enough to kill. Maybe if you go in with like a Bastet and then a proper nuke that way, plus you can lower the crit rate on her then as well. This thing is relatively tanky. That is still a thing, but it is still good damage to clear it out, because yeah, this thing is proper tanky. But if I have some way where I can add more damage and less speed to it, I would probably be able to nuke it. Plus her skill 2 is pretty interesting, where she goes for a strip, beneficial effect remove, and then 2 chances for a defense break. So cleanup of her afterwards is pretty strong. She's not that much of a Bunchel killer as I thought though. So then the big question, should you build her? I think she's pretty good to build. But is she better than a Federica? No. If you're using a Federica to destroy something like this, Federica probably will do more damage and will actually kill this, where she doesn't. Let's actually compare this damage to... I'm not sure if this thing... No, that thing is probably not in tune to be fast enough. So let's just clear you over there. Let's hope that you don't do enough where you start stripping me or stunning me. Okay, let's just wait for RNG to kind of fit. And then we see if this Federica can actually do more damage. But it's not a real fair one-to-one trade because this Federica ain't mine. Also, you can kind of do this a little bit more. You will land some and not land some others. And of course, if I hit the record button, Comtois is like, your RNG goes down the freaking drain. But let's just see. Okay, we kill it once again. I do like the animations though. Looks kind of cool. Okay, once again, skill 3. That's the 3rd Despair Stun in a row. One would almost say that this skill has a built-in Despair Stun. What the actual fuck is going on? Okay, you're not gonna do it this time, right? Ain't no way that you're 5 for 5 Despair Stunning, right? Okay. But if you S2, you kind of steal my attack buff, which is kind of unfair as well. Yeah, that's a bit of an issue. Ignore defense, 22k. It's probably gonna do less. Whatever. Okay, that works. Oh, there's one issue though. It has a defend. Or it can stop being a potato and actually do it like this. Well, now technically you have more buffs. You have the shield set extra and that kind of stuff. So therefore Federica will do more damage in the first place. But let's actually see how much this does. 46k. Still doesn't kill though. So I would say that she's definitely not bad. But is she a must build? Well, if you don't have a Federica or a fire different sniper on a net 5, she might be pretty interesting. Plus, as I mentioned, defense. What could be a good defense with her? Well, I haven't built an Orion on this one just yet, but let's assume that this is a weird looking Orion thing. So you go for an Orion. Of course, you add in a Morris because Morris is the most dumb unit in game still. So this is an Orion. And then you add in a Shasha over here. You got RNG over there. You got strips over there. You got ignore defense over here. You got strip over there. You got a stun over there. You got a stun over there. You got stuns over there. If that Orion is fast, I claim this as a pretty nasty team, to be honest. Sure, you can outspeed it with like a bunch of stuff and then you could murder things. 100% true. But in lower ranks, could this be a strong team with an Orion? Absolutely. I think I will actually run this on defense. The next unit I would build is an Orion. If I actually do have Orions, because I think I fed everything into Gemini. I do have an Orion. So this would be that team in this case. I still have to put runes to it. In this case, I would definitely go for some kind of Vio Bruiser set on her rather than going for full-on damage. Sure, you could potentially go full-on damage, but I think a Vio Bruiser set probably does do more. And I'm also kind of out of runes, as you can see, where it's just not adding that much. With this low base HP, I would probably fix the HP in the artifact itself. Something like this could work over there. Then preferably on the Orion, you want to go as fast as possible on Swift. With just some additional damage artifacts. This thing, also some additional damage artifacts. This is actually the only one good artifact that I have on this account, which is actually weirdly enough really good. And then I want to have some kind of fast, annoying Vio to it. Let's just say something like this. Is the perfect, like, great team by all means? Not really, but let's just fight it with my Bruiser setup for just to try it first. So this thing does have a Oblivion and everything, so we do get that over there. This could be potential looking at stuns, while Morris already taking the Morris kind of turns right there. Is also Oblivion, right? It's just the Morris showcase, right? But how much is this? Okay, did do actually less damage than I was hoping for. Well, you don't really need the death break in that case, right? So let's actually do this as we would be I see fly. As we're fighting this normally, or would be fighting this normally. Okay, let's go for that right there. It feels a little bit killable, though. It feels a little bit killable. Maybe it's worse than I expected, or was hoping for. Well, if this thing has a lot of Vio procs, it could do pretty good damage. Also, this team that I have in offense right now is a pretty strong team. It's definitely something I could recommend people to build. But I was expecting a little bit more damage out of her, and you are pretty nasty right there. Let's try out a different team. So this one, if this team outspeeds me, I could be screwed. So not sure how fast. Well, that's the thing. Offense has your fastest runes in there. Okay, I do get, or do outspeed it. Does go for that right there. That is nice. That is decent. Let's see if, okay, double sixes. It's just a Mora showcase. There's nothing else to it than just a Mora showcase. Maybe it actually has to be a bit more, okay, in this case with that violent proc in there, it was actually strong enough. So maybe she just needs better stats, because actually the stats that I threw on it are pretty ridiculously bad. So that's, if she has better stats and maybe actually crit damage rather than just crit rate, it could be a something, but it's not the worst. It's not the worst. Also, she doesn't have max skills yet, so her cooldowns are crazy long. So I could see this as being an annoying defense if all of these units have skill ups and actually decent runes, because I think that that one is a lot more rune heavy requirements, because 4.5Ks on ignore defense is not really a something, right? That's just not really there, but I could see her kind of being used. Is it more the showcase of just them two being really good and then this could be legit whatever? Yes. I think maybe more of an offense unit. So she's rather niche than really good. Would I recommend to build her? I think I will build her and max her up, because I will use this as one of the main teams rather than... I had the idea of making a Kali in here, but I think I like her actually more in this team than I do like the Kali in this team. Mainly because of the follow-up on that skill too. So yeah, that's all for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what kind of unit you would like me to test from the balance patch, and see you as always in the next one. Thanks for watching. If you would like to see more guides, join the Discord and check out the content tab for the guide video archive, which contains all of the guides that you might need. Hope to see you there.